Welcome to Our Issues Birmingham. Happy Sunday. Glad you're with us. Today's guest is Senator, and that's a word I haven't used until now in addressing him. This is Senator Lance Bell from out of St. Clair County, which is what, District
11.
11. I started to say 17. District 11. But I have known Senator Bell, I will call him, with all due respect. Oh gosh, as long as I'm a lot older than him, let me just say it that way. Originally I met him, he was a law enforcement officer. And then he became a DA, and then he became a private practitioner, and then he's done a lot of things. So Lance, welcome to our show.
Thank you.
And tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up in politics. We'll address some specifics about legislation in a minute, because I know our viewership is concerned about a lot of things that are going on currently, especially with gun violence. But we'll talk about it.
Basically, grew up in Cook Springs off I-20.
That's Springville, right?
Between Pell City and Moody.
Oh, okay. I'm on the wrong road.
You're on I-59.
I'm on I-59.
You're on the wrong road, Tommy.
Yeah, stay there.
But grew up there, graduated Pell City High School. My parents didn't have a lot of money, so there was no go directly to college. So I worked at the Kilgrove Funeral Home from the time I graduated, taking part-time classes, and then at the age of 21, went to work for our sheriff's department in St. Clair County, and then just continued going to college and met people like you. And as I'm working there and going to college, I had Judge Embry, our district judge up in St. Clair County, and then Van Davis was our district attorney. And after testifying one day, I got brought into Judge Embry's office, and it was more of a, "What are you doing? You need to go back to school. You need to go to law school." So they actually helped me get into Birmingham School of Law, and I went to Birmingham School of Law, and Van really was like a second dad to me.
I didn't teach you that.
No, I got lucky.
I was there in 2000.
Yeah.
2002 or something.
I graduated in 2003 from Birmingham School of Law, and just decided I stayed in the DA's office for a little while, and then left there and went to Birmingham on Morris Avenue in January of 2004, and then left there in 2012 and come back home to Pell City.
Were you working with David?
Me and David Luker were together. Learned so much with him. And
do you know that building was my grandfather's wholesale grocery house in 1907?
Wow. There's so much history on that street.
Yeah. 2205 was our address. I think that's what
it was.
Okay, still the same number.
For 9 years, I was 2205 Morris Avenue.
Yeah.
Stayed there 9 years and then come home to Pell City, and not really sure how I fell into politics, but I'd always kept up with it. I was always involved and enjoyed being involved. And kind of like you, I've always had so many things going on that I did not like dull moments. I like staying busy. Kind of like you said a while ago, we're both kind of like adrenaline junkies to a certain degree. We like staying wide open and being involved and being busy. And before I know it, I'm the chair of our Republican Party in St. Clair County. I ended up helping draft some legislation years ago and just kind of stayed involved in it. And ever since then, I don't know what happened and how I got involved in what I did, but I ran for Senate 2 years ago and won that race, and I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing.
Well, my philosophy is destiny finds you. You don't find your destiny. So that seems to be exactly what happened. I mean, this was not something when you were at the funeral home, you envisioned you being
Absolutely
where you are now. It just sort of unfolds. And if you're like we are, and there's an opportunity to divert, for lack of a better word, to avoid boredom or for distraction or, just diversion.
Yeah.
You take that path and it takes you wherever it takes you. The legislative body in the state of Alabama has taken some criticism since its last session. I tried to get you on a bunch, but you were in session, and ultimately the session ended. And the feeling I got from Governor Ivey was she wasn't very happy with what had happened. Can you give us like an insider's view of what went down, or lack of what went down?
I'm still learning. There's a lot of frustration. For me, it's just my second session, a lot of learning. I told them my first year, main thing I wanted to learn, where's the bathrooms at? Learn some of those kind of things. But it's not as easy coming in as what you think it is.
Oh, I wouldn't think it'd be
There's
easy at all.
a ton of reading, a ton of research you're doing on your own, because you're looking after your constituents. You're looking after the people in your district, and you have a lot of concerns. And I like to ask questions, but also like to pick up the phone and call people that I know in these areas and say, what do you think? How about this or how about that? But that's my biggest thing is I'm still learning. And everybody told me it will take you 3 or 4 years to kind of get the grasp of it, and then you'll start going. And I understand that part now, why they say that and why it ends up like that.
Yeah, well, living is learning. And, as a criminal defense lawyer, it takes 10, 15 years coming out of law school before you're comfortable in knowing what you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
And I tell that to law students, and they don't like hearing it because they think it's like automatic money falling out of the sky once you have a degree. It's not, I promise. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with Senator Bell. This is Our Issues Birmingham. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. As you know, we're talking with Senator Lance Bell of St. Clair County. And I don't want to call it bad publicity. There are those out there that say any publicity is good publicity. I'm not so sure that's true. But we've struggled for years to get a lottery into our state. And it came down to a vote, and it was your vote, I think. Maybe one
of several.
And you were a naysayer. And I think people out there don't understand why you drive through a lottery or a casino even in another bordering state, or get off the interstate at the first convenience store headed to Atlanta, and it's just inundated with Alabama plates.
Yes.
And we've talked about this privately. Senator Bell was not in favor, and there are reasons why he was not in favor. So why don't you share with us what people don't see?
I was in favor of the lottery. And I had to do a lot of education, and 3 of us actually went to Victory Land on a Tuesday evening and walked around Victory Land, got a tour of Victory Land. And because I will tell you, I was fairly ignorant on the inner workings of how the gambling operates, how it works. You have historical horse racing is what we have currently here at Victory Land and the other places that we have in Alabama.
But not live horse racing.
Correct. It's like a casino machine that you can pull the handle or hit the button, and on the corner you'll see a little horse race, a finish of a horse race. And that's what we currently have right now, and it's real technical, and I did not have a clue how all that was. Well, in the first package that we saw, there were some issues that I had on the money, the spreading out of the money. We all kept hearing education lottery.
Those are the words that
everybody kept using. Well, to me, after reading the bill, and if you looked at my first draft, I had 42 tabs in my first draft that I read of the bill of issues I had and things that I thought should be corrected.
But you didn't draft the bill.
No, I didn't draft it. Well, ultimately in the Senate, we took the House bill. We met over and over, spent many of hours. One night I think I left, it was a little after midnight, and was back at 6 the next morning. Several of us working on this bill. And then we ultimately passed a bill that had extra votes. And then that bill went to the House. They, of course, it's their problem. They did not like that bill. And so the bill we get sent up, it ended up at conference committee. So the bill that came out, and I had said, if you expand where you're at on the casino side of it without bidding it out, I'm a no. And that basically, because you're giving a license to these 7 places that are currently operating with a no bid process. That was one of my issues. And then the other issue is keep the money simple, because when I first started running for office and first came to Montgomery, everything was talking about earmarks. Earmarks cause problems because we have money in different accounts today that we have more money than we need in certain accounts because of we have to spend it on X. We need to clean it up. Well, the bill we drafted had a third to the education trust fund, a third to the general fund, and a third to infrastructure. Well, then this bill come back, and I can't remember if it's page 96, 97, 98 back in there, and it spread the money out a lot more, a lot of different programs, and it really convoluted where the money was going. And I said, you fix that, because I was a yes on the first vote. But when all this come back, I said, look, you fix that. You fix the machines back to either historical horse racing or a little bit, but not all out casino. And that's what the bill basically was, all electronic with a no bid process. So we're going to pick 7 people without any bidding and make them multimillionaires overnight. And that's basically, to me, what the bill was. So I had conversations with several people in my district and told them my ideas and my thoughts, and I had to vote my conscience, and that's why I was a no on that. And if it had just been an education lottery, I'm a yes all day long. You give me the Senate bill we passed, again, that gives you pretty much all of that. I'm a yes. You give me sports book. Look, I can go to my local high schools right now, and they're operating a sports book. The kids are operating this illegal sports book, but it's on. Everybody that has a smartphone can download 3 or 4 different apps and bet on sports. It's unregulated. So I would be okay with a sports book where we're regulating it and collecting off of it, but also keeping our minors away from it on the way we do it the legal route. I was okay with that. But it's kind of like a lot of bills down there. There's certain things you're for, certain things you're against. And to just getting to that point, well, we ended up at the end, and it just fell apart because our vote was just a couple of days prior to the end of the session.
Yeah.
And if we'd had another week or two, I would hope that we could have met and passed something. And I still hope. I'm still a yes. You give me a lottery, I'm still a yes all day long.
So when you say you give me this, you're talking about the House.
Yes.
So,
or the Senate too. It could still be the Senate, because the Senate version we all agreed on, or the bulk of us agreed on, the majority, was the version we passed. And everybody had little tweaks or things here and there that they wanted.
But what came back
was
a hodgepodge.
Well, you got to look at, what is my district getting? Absolutely nothing. What are the 7 places that are currently operating getting? They're being made complete casino owners. If we're going to give them ownership, let Harrah's, MGM, or some of these companies come in and bid 7 on those locations, or some form of competition there, instead of just handing somebody a license and saying, here, go make, your fix go be, make tens of millions of dollars overnight. And that was some of the issues I had.
Well, I hope that clarifies why he voted no. It did for me. We've had this conversation before privately. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. We're getting an insider's view of what goes on in Montgomery. When do y'all go back in session?
The first Tuesday in February.
Okay, we get to get through Christmas. So I always have this question. I have a house on the coast. I look out and I see multiple structures that appear to be love boats, all lit up, generating methane gas, I think. They're gas wells. They're not oil wells. But every time I have a politician, a senator, a House of Rep person on this show, and I ask, where does that money go? Nobody can answer the question. Can you? Do you know?
I'm going to be another one of those. I have absolutely no idea.
Well, it's a lot of money. It's going. I think it's similar to what you just said. We have money earmarked that goes somewhere that can only be spent on something, but it's not getting to the general fund. It's certainly not getting to the schools.
I will be in Montgomery on Friday. I'm going to find out that answer. If I can.
Somebody's got to know.
Just keep your cell phone handy Friday afternoon, because I will try to find that answer out.
It sure would make my life a lot easier.
And that's the thing about only my second year. There's so much to learn.
Yeah.
You go look at the general fund budget or the education budget. Education was $9.3 billion. You start trying to read that, it's crazy, and
that's why I went to law
get a
school.
grasp on it is it's not easy.
No, not at all. So recently, you've been to the border. Recently, we've had horrible tragedy here in Birmingham. National politicians are talking about immigration, violence, the connection between the two. There's talk about one of our representatives wants to call out the National Guard to Birmingham. Our mayor is wanting to ban certain Glock switches that are causing a lot of gun violence here in Birmingham. And we're not like an island. I mean, this is going on everywhere.
It's the violence seems to be a national problem, and I don't know that laws will fix the problem. When people don't respect themselves, how do they respect others? And I think Mayor Woodfin said it pretty correct. I think it was last week. It's not necessarily a criminal problem, but it's a culture problem. Back when we were in school, if we got into it with somebody, we may have a fist fight. Then we're going to lunch together. We're going to do something together. Well, now they pull a gun out or a knife out and sell it this way. And in the court system, I think we're seeing more and more kids coming from broken homes. They're raising themselves. And it's really sad. And I don't know the answer to it. And I don't know that passing more laws will fix that. The Glock switch, I think if we'd had 1 or 2 more days in session, the Glock switch was on our calendar for that last day. So
ran out of time.
We ran out of time. I think we'd had another day or two. You'd have probably seen the Glock switch bill make it through the legislature. It made it through the House, got to us. And then I believe it was the last day it was on the calendar. And then there was pretty much a host of bills that just did not make it that day. I actually had something that didn't make it because if we'd had 1 or 2 more days, one of my bills would have made it.
Yeah. What'd you learn when you went to the border?
Everybody's talking about kicking these people out of our country that are coming across. The experience I had down at the border was sad. These people are taken advantage of. To me, it's human trafficking. And a lot of these charities that are operating down there is money laundering. They're taking advantage of these people. What I learned talking Border Patrol, ICE, Texas DPS, we've got to close our borders, get control of it, because by having the open border we have, there's a lot of people coming into our country and they're being taken advantage of.
They're coming into our country because they're being taken advantage of, because they're being told that if they pay exorbitant amounts of money, they can get in.
They'll have a sponsor through the parole system. Through the end of August, 530,000 people have been granted parole status across the border.
Now, we're not talking about...
Not parole like we have in the state of Alabama.
We have lack of parole in the state of Alabama.
Correct. But They come
It's
across
better.
with a sponsor.
It's getting better.
Yeah. With a sponsor. But you talk to them. I went into one of the shelters. Who's your sponsor? I got a name. And through, I haven't talked to him through an interpreter. Lady from Venezuela, she had a baby that was 8 days old. She had the baby here in the United States. From there to New Orleans. Once they got several more, she'll be taking a trip to New Orleans. Where are you going to live? I don't know. Where are you going to? I really don't know. And I guess my fear is somewhere today, by now she should be in New Orleans. What are her and that baby doing? They get a phone and a gift card or a debit card that has money on it. But by the time they leave the shelter, you walk in the front door of the shelter and there's a bar that what me and you would think of, bourbons and vodkas and rums and wines and stuff. This is toothbrush, diapers, toothpaste, toiletries, things of that nature. And they're using that card and to buy those things at the shelter. Well, by the time they leave the shelter, most of their money's gone. And the shelters are double dipping. It's money laundering, and it's sad. These people are being treated worse than we would treat an animal at our house that we love. They're being treated horrible, and it's really sad. And by us having that parole system open, I basically learned it's inviting them to come over. People are taking advantage of them in their countries and sending them here. And it's horrible. It's a horrible situation.
Well, what I'm hearing from you requires me to say to you, you got to come back, because we're scratching the surface of what you've witnessed. It sounds like to me.
It's sad.
You have helped us understand what's going on in our own local legislature, and you've promised to get me an answer to my question, so I'll hold you to that. Thank Lance Bell. Thank you for being with us. This is Our Issues Birmingham. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
At ABC 3340, we're not just working for you, we're working with you. Because of you, together, we're making a difference. Thank you and keep them coming to news tips at abc3340.com or call us at 205-440-1841.